Good evening, folks. I hope everybody's having a good day. We're going to be checking out the SSL 4KB plugin that just dropped today, which is an emulation of the first console that they released in 1976, and they only made 6 of these things. There's so many SSL emulations out there, but this is a flavor we haven't come across yet or heard yet. Pretty cool that they've done this. SSL is an iconic brand in the audio industry. They've changed how records sound and they changed how records are made, and they're continuing to do that. I mean, this is a company that came out in 1969, I believe. And yeah, their first console came out in 76, which was the 4B, and then I think the E came out in 79. But they continue to be at the forefront of how we make records in the digital domain as well. I mean, they're constantly releasing plugins. They've developed their own converters and heavily involved in digital consoles, digital workflow. They do lots of great stuff to continue to evolve and kind of push on the limits. So they're not a company that's just kind of been sticking with what works. They've been constantly developing and pushing the envelope. Yeah, from a digital perspective, these guys are really on the cutting edge of digital workflow, not only with their plugins, but with their 360 software and their interfaces, the UC1 and the UF8, which are really, really incredible tools that I've had a chance to try out myself, and they're great. The integration with your DAW, your workflow, it's great. They're really at the cutting edge of what they're doing. But yeah, if you haven't been on the stream before, this is me discovering this plugin in real time. I haven't heard it at all. I'm super familiar with this channel strip plugin. I've used the channel strip 2 a ton, but I don't know how this thing sounds. So the whole point of the stream and the whole point of the review is for me to try this thing out in real time. If you're catching this on YouTube, when I edit it down and I put it onto YouTube, just look in the chapters in the timeline below and you can just hop right to the recap, and that's where I'm going to just go over what my thoughts are, my feelings on the plugin, what I like, what I don't like, what I'd like to see added. That recap will kind of have the short version, but this is me having fun with plugins and digital workflow, which is where I love to be. So I'm really going to go through this thing. So it is a longer form review. We're just going to have a quick look at the manual. So what is this? This is an authentic SL4000B series analog console emulation. So this is where it started for them. Brings the elusive and rare sound of the 4000B console. Only 6 were built. I mean, that's pretty rare. Full tone, punch, and rich nonlinear analog character. And they go on to talk about this, about the modeling in detail, which is really cool. This is a great manual. I highly recommend checking it out. There's lots of good information in here. I know that's super nerdy, but I love a good manual, and you learn how to use your tools better. So yeah, it totally integrates with the UF8 and UC1 controllers, which are awesome controllers. And you can add analog saturation and drive to your tracks with the preamp section and the VCA fader saturation. This is cool. This is what's lacking from the channel strip 2, is the saturation, is the color. Detailed model of the original SL4000B console, developed by emulating the circuits from the original schematics down to a component level. So sounds like they went pretty hardcore on this. Jensen JE transformer, mic preamp, original 4000 circuit with the precursor to the O2 brown knob EQ. So we're definitely going to be doing a comparison of brown knob EQs, plugins at some point. Maybe not tonight, but maybe tomorrow or tomorrow night. We'll see. The B-series channel compressors featuring a circuit topology that's based on the SSL bus compressor. So peak detection and sidechain VCA in a feedback loop, so a bit different. Unique DeEss mode, repurpose the compressor to DeEss your signal. That's super cool. The DBX202 black can VCA fader is actually involved in this, so which is super cool. The compressor now has a mix knob, which is something that was lacking before, and like really cool, the integration. I mean, I'm in Pro Tools, and there is a little bit of extra Pro Tools integration here finally, the EQ and the dynamics integration, so that's cool. But boy, if you're in Ableton Live or Studio One or Reaper, like, this 360 software really integrates in, so that's super cool. The high quality mode lets you sacrifice CPU for higher quality, which is also good. I feel like that was something that was missing on the channel strip 2 plugin, is just a little bit of depth in the plugin. It felt a little bit, when pushed, it did feel a little bit brittle to me. So the mic gain, we get the preamp, and the preamp is gain matched, automatically gain compensated, so that's great. So we can drive this signal, and it's emulating the mic preamp, so super cool. So the brown knob EQ is just a little bit rounder than the black knob. The black knob is probably the most famous of them, but brown knob's just a little bit rounder, a little bit more musical sounding, a little bit of a gentler curve to it, whereas most people, if you're used to SSL style EQ, you're probably used to using the E series or G series, and the E series is just a little bit, the black knob's just a little bit tighter of a curve, and the brown knob's just a little bit more musical, a little rounder. Yeah, the dynamic section in the SSL 4000B console channel strip is unlike any other SSL channel dynamics module. 4000 E series to 9000 series, etc. It has a design more similar to the topology of the SSL bus compressor. The compressor features 3 fixed ratios, 2, 4, 10, with an additional DeEss mode. So very cool. There's 6 release settings, gate expander, super cool. That stuff's great. The DeEsser mode, so this is cool. Set the compressor ratio and release controls to DeEss. The DeEss ratio is a 10:1 ratio with a filtered sidechain input, delivering broadband compression triggered by sibilance. The DeEss release is variable in accordance to the signal between 30 and 50 milliseconds. This is a much faster minimum release than you would normally expect from an SSL dynamics section. Note the compressor ratio and release in DeEss work independently of each other and can be utilized in very creative ways. Example, you can use the fast DeEss release without using the DeEss ratio for aggressive compression. So that's fun. This is also very cool. So the output section adds additional harmonic saturation with a modeled DBX202 black can VCA fader. This fader controls the output signal of the plugin and can be driven up to 12 dBs to add another color of harmonic distortion. So we have 2 saturation stages. So cool. I love this. I just kind of wanted to dig into this right away just because, well, I'm pretty excited about it. I dived into the manual right away, didn't I? So the cool things that are different about this is we get the preamp and we get the fader saturation. That's awesome. Dynamic section is a little bit different in the DeEss feature. That's awesome. And we get the 360 software. Now I did check the 360 to make sure it was all working. Unfortunately, they have updated the 360. I don't know, unfortunately for me, I don't like how it looks, but 360 software is looking a bit new. So for those of you who've never used the 360 software, I'm not really going to go into how it all works, but it's separate software that runs outside of your DAW and allows you to control the plugin. It integrates with their control surfaces, the UC1 and the UF8. But also, if you don't have those, it's just a really great way to kind of quickly work on multiple instances of the plugin. It's a really cool workflow. It's really unique and something that I would love to see DAWs integrate further with their plugins. Waves tried to do this with the MixHub plugin and the buckets, but this 360 software is way cooler in my opinion. Let's see. I introduced the plugin. I went through my thoughts on SSL. I love SSL. So I love channel strip workflow. I came up in the analog world. I came up on recording consoles and live sound consoles. That's where I started. So console workflow and console mentality is really a part of how I work, from recording right through mixing. So I love channel strip workflow. I think it's really a great way to work. You can get a lot done really quickly. You have you have your basics tools available to you there: EQ, compression, and saturation. Before we dig in completely to the plugin and see how it sounds, I kind of have my own little checklist that I go through for plugins. I really love the digital workflow, and I really want to make sure things fit into my workflow. And so there's a few things that I look for in plugins before I even start using them. First thing is the GUI. How does the thing look? And this thing looks great. Looks just like SSL stuff. I mean, SSL's iconic brand. Looks very familiar to their consoles. So the GUI looks great. It looks really cleanly laid out and simple. You can't resize their plugins, so that's a bit of a downer. At least I didn't check, but I use the SSL stuff all the time, and yeah, you're not able to resize it. Resizing, I think, is not critical, but pretty cool when plugins allow you to do that. So GUI looks great, no resizing. That's okay. Do we have AB? Do we have undo? We have those things here. We have an AB, we have an undo. The only thing that I don't like about their AB is that to copy A to B and B to A, I have to go to this little menu. I'd rather just be really quick that I could copy either way. I know that's pretty picky, but it definitely speeds things up. I do a lot of AB when I'm working. It would be nice to have that available. Meters, also really important to me. We have input and output meters really close together. I love this. They do this on their Channel Stir plugin and a few other plugins, I think. It's great. So we have our input and our output meters. We also have tooltips, which is awesome. So we know that we have dBFS and RMS value. So that's great. Meters are great. They're big, they're clean, and they're right there. That's a big thumbs up for me. I'm a meter nerd. Mix knob. They've added a mix knob to the compressor. That's a huge W for me. Something they just added to the channel strip too as well. Wasn't available before. Super important for compression, I think. Especially, I think, just in the modern day and age where things are so compressed right away. You're not necessarily looking for a direct compression on everything, so being able to have a parallel compression available to you right off the rip is great. So that's also a big W. Auto gain, there's no auto gain on this. That's something I do look for. I'm not sure if we have some auto gain on the compressor. We'll find out. I do know that there's auto gain. Introduces gain compensated saturation to the signal on the mic pre-emulation. So we know we have some gain compensation there. Latency and oversampling. Most of the SSL stuff is really, really low latency or as an eco mode. The channel strip plugin runs in 0 latency. As you can see here, we're on 0 latency. But what they have added is that they've added a high quality, so drops the channel into a higher quality mode. This introduces some oversampling and therefore some latency. 46 samples of latency. That's not crazy. And we're also going to keep an eye on, this is a great recommendation from somebody on the channel, we're going to keep the system usage meter up while we're going through and working, and we can keep an eye on how much CPU we're using. And we're definitely going to check out the high quality mode and see how that dials in. So we'll get that going. So let's run through what's on the plugin real quickly. Up here we got our filters, 12 dBs per octave on the high and the low, and they default to out. If it was me, I'd probably default them in a little bit, but that's all right. We got our high frequency, high mid frequency, low mid frequency, low frequency. And on the high and the low, we have the opportunity to shift from shelf to bell. And on the mid frequencies, we have a Q, which goes from 3 to 0.5. We got our compressor to 410 and DeEss mode, threshold, release, mix, awesome. We got our expander gate here, awesome. In the middle here, we have our clean input trim, our phase switch, and then our gain compensated pre-saturation. And then also we get some width, which is just some mid-side, I think is what it's doing. I think that's what it said in the manual. And then we have pan available for stereo instances. We have the solo and the cut. Now these are specific for working with the 360 software. I mean, I'm sure the cut works without the 360 software, but the solo does not work without everything being on the 360 software. We got a solo clear, solo safe, super cool. We got a sidechain listen, and we have our fader, which as we push it up, we get a little bit more saturation. Doesn't sound like it does anything when we're attenuating, and that's okay. One kind of cool thought that I had as a feature request the minute I heard that this thing is adding gain is I would love it to be linked inversely to the output trim. That would be a really cool update. SSL immediately. That would be awesome, please. So as we're pushing up the gain, this would be automatically compensating. It would be something that I think you would have the option to engage or disengage, because I would just want to be able to hear the saturation in context a little bit more without having to do it, but just a small feature request. And then down here on the right, we have the signal path. So right now we're going EQ into filters into dynamics, which is how I like to work. And you can flip-flop all of these around if you want to. EQ into filters, dynamic EQ filters, whatever your workflow is, you can set it up, the signal path, how you like it. And then you can pick your sidechain options here. You can put the filters into the sidechain of the dynamic, or you can put the EQ and filters into the dynamics, or just the EQ, or you can pop in an external, which you can also then EQ and filter. So pretty extensive sidechain options, which are great. And then, yeah, we have the high quality switch here. But yeah, that's kind of the rundown of the plugin. I don't know how it always takes me about a half hour to get hit and play, but it sure takes me a while to get started. So we're just gonna dive in. I think we're gonna try it out on everything. Okay, here we go. Let's get some drums happening. I really want to hear the saturation, so we're just gonna start on the drum bus. Let's just fire up the pre. great gain matching. Sounds awesome. All right, let's hear what the fader saturation does. We'll just bring this down 12 because that's where I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna push it all the way. Okay, I can enter in, so that's awesome. So just a nice subtle saturation. You can hear it just kind of punch up on the bottom end, soak up. So this is both the pre-saturation and the fader saturation. So just fader saturation again. Sounds nice. Sounds SSL-y. It's that punch going. Just kind of slows down the transients a little bit. Just a little bit of density and just a little bit of class. Let's just try it out. Get some EQ and compression happening. Lots of engineers out there love the brown knob on drums and bass. So this being the precursor to that. A little bit rounder curves. All right, let's the top end sounds great. Ooh. Ooh, that HQ button sounds real good. So the benefit of that for people who don't know or just tuning in is that oversampling is allowing us to push further into the frequency spectrum. In the analog world, there's no cap. It's a continuous analog signal. In the digital domain, we have the Nyquist theorem that we run into. So we run into frequency camping on the top end. And you can really hear that when you switch this HQ. So we're at a 48K session at the moment. So that'd be the highest frequency. That's where the frequency range goes up to, is 48K. And the oversampling is probably going to push us into 96K minimum. So we just have more headroom to work with. You can just hear that as we pop in the HQ switch on the EQ. I mean, it sounds good bypassed on its own. It sounds really good. But when when you pop that HQ switch in there. It sounds great. One thing we didn't try was just seeing if this plugin's doing anything right off the rip. I mean, it is analog modeled. So even just running it through the EQ in the dynamic section, we should be getting some vibe in it. Feels like we're getting a little bit of flavor, pretty subtle, but you can just hear it saturate up a little bit, punch up a little bit. The top and the bottom get a little classier. Sounds nice. Nothing's getting brash or harsh in the cymbals or anything. I mean, they're getting present for sure, but they're not getting harsh. Okay, let's start at the bottom end. We'll leave a little bit of top up there. Sounds nice. Let's see what the HQ knob does here now. Ooh. It's got way more dimension. Almost becomes 3D. Tightens up a little bit. Bottom of Zen sounds great. I don't know what it is, but on SSL plugins and on the hardware as well, I just love the low mid band. It's my favorite band. I don't know what it is about the band interaction or about the curve of this low mid frequency band on E series and on G series, but mainly E series. I really love it, so I don't know if that's going to be true of this, but this is kind of a nerdy note. Yeah, that HQ button does a lot of wonderful things. So really musical sounding. Feels really broad. Even at high Qs, doesn't feel, that doesn't feel super pointed to me. I mean, we can definitely hear that it's a little bit pointed, but it doesn't sound super pointed to me. Okay, well, let's get a little bit of EQ that we like happening. Okay, let's take the high quality off. Wow. I mean, the EQ sounds great with it off. But with it on, we're in a whole nother world. Whew. That is pleasing to the ear. Okay, again, high quality off. And high quality on. It's just like it just becomes like a panoramic. It's like you're stepping into the drum kit. Let's get a little bit of compression happening. So, no gain compensation here on our compressor, but our meters are amazing. We can really easily see as we're dialing where we're living. RMS, dBFS, those are great meters. So even though we don't have gain matching on the compressor, we have an easy way to attenuate. Compressor sounds immediately impressive. Let's take the high quality off. I'm gonna pop the EQ out, and we're just gonna hear the high quality on the compressor. Oh, just stands right up. It just gets firm. High quality out. Still sounds nice, but just a little bit more papery, a little bit thinner. High quality in. Oof, this just gets like round and punchy, depth, firm. Okay. Sounds great. Let's put the EQ back in. And I mean, I love that there's wet dry. Yeah, and the fact that we got parallel wet dry, that was really missing off the channel strip too. Can't believe it wasn't there. It is there now, so that's great. Sounds great. DeEss, let's see what that sounds like. Interesting. The DeEss mode, I am curious to try out on cymbals. See what that does. Let's try out this DeEss release with some high compression. But yeah, we definitely get a little. This is 30 to 50 milliseconds, it said. So it's cool that those work independent, and yeah, you can tell we're getting something a little bit more crazy. Sounds great, full blast. I don't need to take the mix down on this. Alright, well, we didn't really check out our filters. Let's go over here. Let's try that without the high quality on. Yeah, God, you can really hear. Let's pop the high quality in here. You can really hear it on the knee, like of the high pass. High quality out. This gets a little flatter, like it's, you can just really hear what it's doing to the bottom end. Oh, nice musical sounding 12 dB per octave filters. Can't go wrong. High quality out. Yeah, again, you can hear it, hear what it's doing to the top end there. Just having those filters in sounds great. Well, so far this thing sounds really, really good. Let's try pushing all of it. So we're fully wound out now. Okay, and that's just the regular. Let's try that with high quality. Wow. That's really impressive. So you can get some gritty saturation, and you can get some classy saturation with the output saturation. That's where your classy shows up, and your super gritty stuff can show up on the pre, and of course then you can use both. Yeah. So, sounds great in turbo. Well, let's back off some of this and get it to somewhere tasteful for what we're doing. Okay, so we got some EQ, a little bit of filtering happening. Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I do wish there was an inverse switch so that I can push this and this will just kind of automatically turn down, and then I can unlink it. I know that's a bit demanding, but be cool. Okay, this sounds amazing. Okay. Well, let's try the expander out a little bit. I'm not one for gating much, but I'm definitely one for some expansion. Let's try the gate out here. We'll try the expander out here too. So we'll pop the sidechain in, we'll pop the filter into the sidechain. Expander HD, here we go. So yeah, this will work a little bit better here. It's funny, I thought I was not going to like the fixed release times and stuff, but It's kind of fun. Nice sounding expander. Here's the HQ off. Oh, yeah, this gets papery. You can really hear like 200, 180, 160, 100, somewhere in there. Let's try the full gate. Pretty musical sounding gate and expander. So this is full range, HQ. Yeah, it just gets papery without the HQ on the dynamics. Okay, let's try this out on the vocal.
Take whatever you want, I don't need it anymore. There's nothing here that's gonna get me through this.
Let's check out the de-esser.
You're only swimming, you're wrong, and your confession couldn't be more faultless. Put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I hope redemption gets you through this darkness. I'm letting. I put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I never knew that you could be so heartless. Take whatever you want, I don't need it anymore. There's nothing here that's gonna get me through this. Never drown when you're sinking, you're only swim when you're wrong. And your confession couldn't be more faultless. Put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I hope redemption gets you through this darkness. I'm letting go of that cry.
That's a pretty nice sounding de-esser. Let's see if we can find a spot to loop.
Never drown when you're sinking, you're only swim when you're wrong. And your confession couldn't be more faultless. Never drown when you're sinking, you're only swim when you're wrong. And your confession couldn't be more faultless. Never drown when you're sinking, you're only swim when you're wrong. Your confession couldn't be more faultless. Never drown when you're sinking, you're only
so no HQ.
Your confession couldn't be more faultless. Never drown when you're sinking, you're only swim when you're wrong. Your confession couldn't be more faultless.
HQ in.
Never drown when you're sinking, you're only swim when you're wrong.
That's a really nice sounding de-esser.
Never drown when you're sinking, you're only swim when you're wrong.
It's out.
Your confession couldn't be more faultless. Never drown when you're sinking, you're only swim when you're wrong.
It's not a heavy ass on this anyways, but it just sounds really analog. Almost sounds like there's some saturation into it. Let's try the de-esser out again here, actually. Let's try the de-esser out again with me pushing some top.
Never drown when you're sinking, you're only swim when you're wrong. And your confession couldn't be more faultless. Put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I hope redemption gets you through this darkness. I'm letting go of that cry. So I'll rather around in the mud.
That DS is great.
My sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I never knew that you could be so heartless.
So we're pushing a ton of top end on the vocal into this de-esser. Sounds awesome.
Never drown when you're sinking, you're only swim when you're wrong. And your confession couldn't be more faultless. Put my sins in
That's reversed. Dynamics now first.
I hope redemption gets you through this darkness.
I like pushing into that de-esser. It sounds cool. Well, let's get a bit of a vibe happening with the vocal.
I put my sins in the car, I leave my key in the door. I never knew that you could be so heartless. Take whatever you want, I don't need it anymore. There's nothing here that's gonna get me through this. Never drown when you're sinking, you only swim when you're wrong. And your confession couldn't be more faultless. Put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I hope redemption gets you through this darkness. I'm letting go of that cry, so I'll ride around in the mud. Forgiveness ain't worth your car. I put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I never knew that you could be so heartless. Take whatever you want, I don't need it anymore. There's nothing here that's gonna get me through this. Never drown when you're sinking, you only swim when you're wrong.
It's
your confession couldn't be more faultless. Put my sins in the car,
kind of a thicker sounding compression, like a little bit more density to it. Definitely sounds more like, yeah, like the G comp, just kind of got a gooiness to it.
Take whatever you want, I don't need it anymore. There's nothing here that's gonna get me through this. Never drown when you're sinking, you only
the attack feels great.
Your confession couldn't be more faultless. Put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I hope redemption gets you through this.
And yeah, that DeEss release is super cool that that's there, because you can't even go that fast on you know, regular SSL channel strip compressor. I think 100 milliseconds as quick as it goes, right? So
I put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I never knew that you could be so heartless. Take whatever you want, I don't need it anymore. There's nothing that's gonna get me through this. Never drown when you're sinking, you only swim when you're wrong. And your confession couldn't be more faultless. Put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I hope redemption gets you through this darkness. I'm letting go of that cry, so I'll ride around in the mud. Forgiveness ain't worth your cost. I put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I never knew that you could be so heartless. Take whatever you want, I don't need it anymore. There's nothing here that's gonna get me through this. Never drown when you're sinking, you only swim when you're wrong. And your confession couldn't be more faultless. Put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I hope redemption gets you through this darkness. I'm letting go of that cry.
yeah, and even like, again, there's no auto gain here happening, but the meters are so great that I can just instantly know where I am and just continually work pretty effortlessly without having to worry about it.
I put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I never knew that you could be so heartless. Take whatever you want, I don't need it anymore. There's nothing here that's gonna get me through this. Never drown when you're sinking, you only swim when you're wrong. And your confession couldn't be more faultless. Put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I hope redemption gets you through this darkness. I'm letting go of that cry, so I'll ride around.
Sounds great.
in the mud. Forgiveness ain't worth your cost. I put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I never knew that you could be so heartless.
Let's
Take whatever you want, I don't need it anymore. There's nothing here that's gonna get me through this.
oh yeah, we're getting some grit in there now too.
When you're wrong, and your confession couldn't be more faultless. Put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I hope
So that's cool to hear. We can't break it up on the top.
I'm letting go of that cry, so I'll ride around in the mud. Forgiveness ain't worth your cost. Here comes the flash. I put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I never knew that you could be so hard.
Sounds amazing.
Take whatever you want, I don't need.
Let's just quickly work through the bass and the guitars and the organ, and we'll see how that sounds, and then we'll do a whole high quality on and off and see what happens there. And I think that'll probably do it for tonight. Here we go.
I put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I never knew that you could be so heartless. Take whatever you want, I don't need it anymore. There's nothing here that's gonna get me through this. Never drown when you're sinking, you only swim when you're wrong. And your confession couldn't be more faultless. Put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I hope redemption gets you through this.
So onto the guitars here. Boy, it's really hard to make the EQ sound harsh. Let's try it out on bass. So, pretty sure this is actually a Native Instruments bass. Yeah, I just love that there's so much saturation options. Let's try it on an organ. We have this happening on a little bit of everything. I passed. sounds amazing. Here's the chorus. I passed. Wow, sounds great. So we're gonna check the system usage. So I've got 16 channels, all on a high quality now. So this is all the instances. I think we've got 4 or 5 stereo instances, and then a bunch of mono instances. So this is with the HQ on everything. So even with that on everything, I'm only using 26% of my system usage. Oh, maybe we'll pop it up to 35 there. Still pretty minimal usage, especially considering that it's only adding 46 samples of latency, and it sounds incredible. So, okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a quick A/B. So in this A/B, we're going to be checking out the mix. I've bounced down the mix with no oversampling engaged, and I've bounced it down with the oversampling engaged on every instance. So we're gonna check that out. All right, folks. So this part isn't live in the review because I caught a bit of a mistake while I was watching the playback back, and I caught that these 2 tracks that I was A/B'ing for you are underneath me here, underneath my camera. So unfortunately, as I'm A/B'ing back and forth, you can't follow along with me. So it's an oversight on my part. So I typically don't like to do these things where I'm not doing it live for the review, because I like to be discovering the review with you and with my honest opinions and thoughts. But just to hear the difference and to be able to follow along, I thought it would be better if I went in and redid this section for you so we can do the A/B. So left green is high quality, right blue is no oversample, normal quality. So here we go. So we're starting on the high quality.
Here comes the flame.
Normal quality.
Here comes the flame. I put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I never knew
High quality. I mean, it sounds great, right?
Take whatever you want, I don't need it anymore. There's nothing here that's gonna get me.
Normal quality.
Never drown when you're sinking, you only swim when you're wrong.
So to me, the normal quality just sounds kind of flat, 2-dimensional. It sounds good, don't get me wrong. I think it sounds good, but this oversample is just 3-dimensional. It's yeah, it's really gorgeous. Normal quality doesn't sound bad. Doesn't sound bad at all. But we just get like front to back, bigger sides, top to bottom. The compression feels a little bit firmer. The saturation sounds a little richer. Bottoms, the top and the bottom just sounds great. Normal. It's the benefits of oversampling. This sounds great. As I said in my original video, unedited, I think the high quality is a real W. It's sounds great. So my apologies. This isn't a full real-time review, but I figured for the sake of quality of the experience, I figured I'd edit this in. So I appreciate some leeway on this one. So I hope you enjoyed the comparison. Back to the real-time review. All right, thanks. Well, I'm not done trying this thing out, but I think I'm going to recap the review on this. Short answer, I'm really impressed with this emulation. It sounds incredible. I don't know what the 4000B actually sounds like. I've never worked on one, but I have worked on a 4000E. This thing sounds fantastic. SSL's really knocked it out of the park. Sounds super musical. It's kind of got like this vintage vibe to it, but it's not, it still sounds really modern. It's kind of got this nice polish to it. It doesn't feel sluggish. It feels very round though. It doesn't feel sluggish, but it feels very round, and it sounds modern, which is incredible. The 2 stages of saturation on the way in and on the way out both sound incredible, and the mix knob on the compressors, awesome, and the high quality oversampling feature is a night and day difference. And really, I can't wait to try that out on the channel strip too, because that I think is what was missing on the channel strip too. Filters sound amazing. EQ sounds really musical, really broad stroke. I think if you're kind of looking for some of that aggressive kind of mid-range that you can get out of an SSL EQ, particularly on guitars and stuff, I felt like maybe I struggled a little bit to get some of that, but it's all very forgiving sounding and pleasant. The dynamics section sounds great. It definitely has the bus compressor vibe to it. It's got this kind of gooey-ness to it. Bus style compressor. If you used a lot of SSL bus compression, either in plugin form or in the hardware form, this is going to sound really familiar. The de-esser is really great. I'm really impressed with the de-esser. It's got this really analog vibe to it. You can push a lot of top end of the vocal into it, and it just kind of tames it in and reins it in a really nice way. It doesn't really feel like it gets overdone. The expander and the gate sound great. I don't use gating a ton, but the expander, I do use expansion quite a bit, and it sounded awesome. The whole thing is awesome. I didn't really dive into the 360 business on this. I think I'm going to do another video with that, just mixing on the 360, so keep an eye out for that. I think this thing sounds amazing. As I said at the beginning, I love channel strip workflow. I think you can get a lot done in a very short period of time with a channel strip because you've got it all right there. You're not pulling up a bunch of different plugins. It's all right in front of you. And certainly, you know, if you are somebody that does like the 360 or has the 360 thing, I mean, it's turbocharged with the 360 thing. So, but as far as the overall workflow of this thing, top marks. Sonic quality, top marks. This thing sounds great. I can't wait to shoot it out against the EB2 and the Brainworks channel strips, because those are the two that I use the most. System usage is not crazy. I think you can run a lot of instances of this. I don't think you're going to run into a ton of usage issues. This is a 2007 Mac, Intel Mac. I imagine if you're on an M1 chip or an M2 chip or any of the new Macs or a new PC Intel, you're gonna get a lot of distance out of this thing. Oh, yeah, big shout out to the meters on this plugin. The meters are awesome on this thing. I didn't touch on that. Love the meters. Really makes, even though there's no gain compensation on the compressor, or as you're EQing, it feels very intuitive because the meters are right there. I'm not having to think. Big shout out to the meters on this. Big shout out to SSL for the meters on this. Love it. What do I want to see on this thing? I think it would be really cool if there was the option to, as I'm pushing the output fader up, have the output trim go down, so some sort of inverse link. If I could get that happening, I think that would be really cool. And a global high quality on-off switch. I think if you could switch that on and off globally, that would be really cool. But yeah, try this thing out. I can see why SSL servers crashed today. This thing sounds incredible. Definitely going to be keeping my SSL subscription up to try this out. And I'm really looking forward to trying out the channel strip too with the high quality in there as well. So yeah, I think that's going to do it for me. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, if you're catching me on YouTube and you don't mind hitting the subscribe button, hitting the like, and dropping me a comment if you got some time, and if you have some thoughts on what you'd like to see or hear in any of these reviews, or any comments for anything really, I'd love to hear from you. So thanks for tuning in. This thing sounds great. Go try it out. Let me know what you think. All right, have a great night.